getting ready to get it going here shortly. What's up, everybody out there? I hope everybody's doing well. And I just lost my post. There it is. All right. I just want to give everybody an opportunity to come on board, and we're going to get this show rolling. Get this show rolling, y'all. All right. Let's do it. What's up, everybody? This is your man, DJ Square Knot, and you're tuned into my podcast, Square Knot Live, where we talk about music, real issues, meet great people, and get into fun and engaging topics. With that being said, let's get into it. What's up, everybody? This is your man, DJ Square Knot, and I'm glad to be back and doing what I do. Uh, been away for a minute, been quite busy doing some other things and, dealing with some situations. But getting back in the mix again here. And one of the things that I definitely want to bring up is shout out to all the first responders who've been working so hard through this pandemic. And it's gotten us to the point where we can actually start to move about again. So, we seem to have learned quite a bit more about this thing. And now we're able to move a little bit freely, but keeping in mind that we still have to be diligent about what we do. Enough on that. My reason for you guys for being here today to talk to you guys is simply, what do we charge? What can we charge? What do I charge is what I get for some DJs. Um, a lot of DJs, they tend to reach out to me. I'm not an expert, so I'm not even going to say that, but I guess it's the friendly nature. And also, I'm always willing to share information. I believe that, I can't take that information to the grave with me. So why not share it and pay it forward to that next individual who may be able to build off of that and utilize it in a form that is going to work for them. So I definitely try to do my best with that. Um, One of the things that I definitely want to tap into is the fact of I had some DJs reach out to me and they were like, Square Knot, hey, these different gigs that are out there, what 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 is a good charge? And then also, um, do you have a structured package? Do you have um, ways to tell when to charge and what to charge and how to charge and the whole deal? And I simply tell them yes. And it's one of the reasons behind it is because I've been doing this for 40 years. I started back when I was 12 years old. By the time I was 14, 15 years old, I was with my little crew and we were doing jams and all kinds of other things. So it made it really nice, playing house parties and things of that nature. And of course, throughout the years, just doing things. And then when I was in the Navy, of course, I had to take a little break, but it didn't stop me from making mixtapes, the old fashioned way where you getting a bunch of songs and you taking a tape and pressing record and bringing in the next one and splicing tape and all that stuff. That's a whole nother story. We won't get into that. But then I got back into it a little over a decade ago. And then it finally got to the point where I was like, you know what? Let me return to my first love. Let me turn back to my passion. And that's when I started realizing that how I started out with turntables and all this other stuff came out. There was this new thing called a laptop with equipped DJ software on it. And of course, eventually that software became Serato. And because I remember using the further version, I can't even remember the name of it right now. I'm drawing a blank on some stuff. Forgive me for that. But eventually became Serato, Serato Play. Then we got Serato. Um, uh, God knows I can't even remember. Forgive me, y'all. Some of these medications I take, I ain't gonna lie, it messes with my memory. But anyway, we get to the point where now we're out, we're gigging, we're doing things, and DJs are constantly talking. I think I've sat on maybe three, four, maybe five Zooms and other types of conversations on Facebook and on listening to DJs on IG and TikTok about what do you charge. So some of the first things that you have to realize is this, and that is, what do you want to do? Are you a mobile DJ? Are you a club DJ? Are you a wedding DJ? Are you a tour DJ? Now, tour DJs, if you're a tour DJ, you know exactly what you're doing. So, I won't even put that there. Plus, that's always been my life's dream to be a tour DJ. But the older I get, the less I see that there's that possibility. I might have to sit that one down. I love doing weddings myself. I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing the happiness that it brings to the client when I'm doing what I do, and just really enjoy it overall. But I am a mobile DJ. I'm not really in the club scene as far as, like, I have some good buddies of mine who are part of All Eyes on Me DJs who, they do a lot of club gigs. The DJ Information Group, for example, several DJs in this group, they do a lot of club gigs. So, and shout out to them. And that's a lot of work. It is a lot of work, and it's a lot louder noise when you are dealing with clubs. Although I have played in a couple, and I've had some fun, but I've also had to make sure I always kept my eyes and ears open. But getting back to the topic at hand, the type of DJ. A lot of times, if you have a niche, because overall, at some point and at the top of the umbrella, most DJs will fall under the category of mobile DJ, regardless. Whether you're playing at clubs, whether you're doing weddings, whether you're doing private parties or whatever it may be, you are kind of under that umbrella of mobile DJ, because even though you play at clubs, if someone asks you to play at a private party or do a wedding or something, there's a good chance that you're going to take that gig. Now, the next question, of course, which is the topic at hand, is when you decide to take those other gigs, because you know what you're going to get at a club. The average price at a club, most club DJs are going to get between maybe $150 to $300, maybe even $400, depending on their talents or whatever, or higher. It just depends. And this is from information that I've received from actual club DJs. So this is not me just throwing numbers out. But when it comes to a private party, as opposed to a wedding, as opposed to Sweet 16 or any school event, there's a whole bunch of things that come into play. And so once you determine the type of gig, the thing that I try to make sure I let everyone know is, Once you determine the type of gig, the next thing is figure out where it is, the location of it, who you're dealing with. Also, if you're going to be dealing with a younger crowd, if you're going to be dealing with a 20 to 30 crowd, a 40 to 50 crowd and above. My niche is 40 and above. I love that crowd because that crowd really loves to have a good time. They love to party. They love to do things, but they just are into the old school or the more uh, mature music, I'll say. So I actually enjoy that because 99.99% of my music is clean to today's standard. So I don't play dirty. Um, so it helps me, it helps them. We enjoy each other. We have a great time. So that's all part of that. But getting back to the type of gigs. So let's walk through some of the gigs and so that you can get a little bit of information because there's been so many DJs, whether you're a novice or a professional, to where you have to really sit down and think about what do you charge. Now, the first thing you say is this: it depends on what you're going to take and what you have. If you are a DJ that basically just has a controller and two speakers, you're probably not going to get the same amount as a DJ that's going and putting out a whole bunch of lights and TVs and all kinds of other stuff. It's just not going to happen. But you just have to play to what you have there as well. So that's going to come into play. But let's meet in the middle somewhere, and I'll give you one of my setups. My average setup is going to have the controller. It's going to have the controller or the tables and a mixer. It's going to have at least two speakers, depending on the size of the event, and two tops, the size of the event, and of course, I'm gonna dress it out with lights and all kinds of other stuff to make it really nice. A lot of you guys you check out my website and see some of the work that I have done, because I am big on aesthetics. Aesthetics alone can get you gigs. So that's the other piece to it. You have to understand visuals plays just as much of a part as how you play, because people like for you to look nice, especially at their gigs, at their events, as well as you play. So you got a combination of that. I remember back in the day, though, it wasn't about the looks. It was about the skills and about who was the loudest. But that's not necessarily the case anymore. There are certain cases when you're playing in parks. Shout out to all my DJs up there in Philly. I know for sure, and in New York, where I'm from, shout out to Brooklyn, where there are cases where you still have who's the loudest and who has the best or whatever. And it's not about the dress up; it's about pulling the crowd and having a good time. But you get your standard setup. Your standard setup is one thing. Then the next thing that you have to understand is, like I said, the location. If you have a gig and it's 15 minutes from your house, you may be susceptible to charge a little bit less than if you had to charge, if you had to drive multiple hours. If you had to go to, let's say you live in Garner, North Carolina, and you had to drive to Wilmington. That's almost an hour and a half, if not 2 hours. So if you had to drive 2 hours, you have to, of course, add that into your trip charge, especially with this gas nowadays. Here in North Carolina, at least in my area, the gas is up to like $4.30 a gallon. Now, of course, compared to some other parts of the country, guys might be saying, man, you ain't got no worries. But hey, $4.30 here in North Carolina after seeing it go from like 229, 239, is a huge, huge difference. So you definitely want to make sure that you are paying attention to that. So you got the location, the number of hours, because as a DJ, one of the other things that we have to understand is this. We got DJ Mike L from the DJ Information Group, my brother from another mother out of Maryland. Salute, my brother. Um, the you have uh, the number of hours, and as a DJ, what you also have to understand is you have a worth, and you have to calculate your worth in an hourly rate for certain gigs. So if your rate is $50 an hour and you got to play for 4 hours, you know that's $200. Plus, if you have to travel 2 hours, you may charge for round trip gas. So that could easily be another $100. So you know that that 4 hour gig is going to be $300 minimum. So that's just to give you a roundabout deal. It also depends on uh, other things, like I said, what you have to take. If you have to take a whole bunch more stuff, then it's going to go up from there. So these are all things are called add-ons. And these add-ons like lights, TVs, smoke machines, which, nowadays a lot of venues won't even let you use them anymore. Very rarely, because they say it makes the floor slick, or sometimes the photographer doesn't really like it unless you have low hanging fog that cleaves to the ground, that cleaves to the floor, so that it doesn't mess up the pictures. All kinds of different things. There's a whole bunch of stipulations when you're using fog nowadays. But just to give you some of those examples, uplighting is a huge thing. Like, for example, in weddings, you've probably seen several photos of weddings where they have the striped lights all around the room. That's done from par lights that are positioned all around the room, and that's called uplighting. And uplighting alone could be a very substantial increase in your fee. So that's something also to think about. But now you got the type of gig, you know the location, you know who you're playing for, and you know your travel time. So at best, you're going to get at least $300, $350. But the key is knowing your worth. The average DJ in these days and times, and I'll speak for North Carolina. I'm not sure about any other DJs, which I'm also going to talk about geographic locations, is maybe around $75 an hour. Now, at $75 an hour, you do the math. $75 an hour times 4, that gives you 150. That's also $300 before you add on stuff. Whereas before it was $50 and you had the $200 plus you added on the lights, which is $300. Now you have the deal where 4 hours of DJing alone is $300, and then you add stuff on, which could take you easily up over $500. So you just have to look at these different things, these different ways of doing stuff, but also knowing the type of DJ you are, what you're doing, the location, the travel time, and what other things you're going to bring. So those are just, at best, you as the novice, just think about those 4 things to get yourself started. And the other piece to it too is this, and I want to say this before I go any further as it relates to what to charge. This is information only. And number 2, and the most importantly, is you as the DJ, you charge what you want. Don't let anyone else tell you what you should be charging. And another thing, I call this DJ shaming, where you'll tell a DJ, or you tell some people, yeah, I charged $500 for this gig. And they go, oh man, you done charged too low. You done charged blah, blah, blah. You could have got more money because such and such in New York is getting such and such. Well, you live in North Carolina. There's 2 different markets, which takes me to your next thing, knowing your market. Now, I was fortunate enough to have a conversation with one of these wedding organizations that, they get DJs to sign up and to get gigs, and they pay all this money to according to the placement in the list where you are. And but me, I kept a free account, and I had one of the representatives call me, and she explained some stuff to me. And she asked me a question. She said Square Knot. She said, how much are you charging for a wedding? And I told her, and she says, oh wow. She says, in your area, the average wedding cost is between $1,375 and $4,500. Well, I was a little low from that, but at the same time, I felt comfortable charging what I charged. But it gave me some insight to the area that I am in, and that's called doing your research and doing your homework, because it's very important to know your market. Now, your market here, for example, if you the average cost of a wedding is $1,250, you know, you know, in New York, you may that same wedding you may be able to charge 3,000. It just depends, because the nature of how people spend money and what they are more accepting of. So it's just all about, you know, how it is. DJ Mike L said, this is the main reason I don't charge by the hour no more. I charge by the gig. DJs need to stop charging by the hour. And there's some very good points to that. There are some very, very good points to charging by the hour and not charging by the hour. And the reason behind that is because sometimes you can charge and you can undercharge yourself. And I'll give you an example of, I'll give you a quick example, and I think every DJ has experienced this. And that is, we got DJ Country Boy on. Salute to my brother. I think every DJ has experienced this. Somebody calls you to DJ, and you DJ, you go through the whole spiel of everything of what you can do and what they want. You get all that information. You get all the details. And then you come up and you say, yeah, I'll do this for $750. And they go, okay. They go without a thought. They automatically just agree to it right then and there. Either one of two things have happened. Number one, they really, really wanted you and they didn't want anyone else, or they have done their homework and found out that you were the cheapest. And 9 times out of 10, it was the latter. So you have to think about it. Once you get all the details, that's why it's very good either to have some type of booking form or something like that, or or make sure that when you're on the phone with the client, take plenty of notes and say, hey, I'm going to take all this information, and get it together. And then after that, I'll send you a quote. And then from that, we'll move forth in the process. Don't jump right into it unless you know for sure that that gig, you're going to do it for X amount of dollars because you're familiar with those types of gigs from previous experience. That is the key there. Now, when you have, but if you get in a situation and they say, okay, 9 times out of 10, they've already gotten so many other higher bids that when you said your bid and your bid was like super low, they're going to snag you right up. So just think about that. We got a couple DJs on here before I move any further. I know Mike L chimed in and he talked about, you know, not charging by the hour, but we also have DJ Country Boy on here. DJ Country Boy, what's up, man? What do you think about all of this?
I just got in, so I'm just catching up. I don't even know what you guys been talking about.
Okay. Well, we're talking about what to charge, and this conversation right here is stemming from some calls that I got. I got some calls yesterday from a couple DJs, and they were just asking general questions about what should I charge, and then also are there structures in getting it together with different packages, which we'll be talking about today. So you'll hear something about that. And then we got DJ Mike L. DJ Mike L, you got anything for us at this moment? All right. While he's doing that, if he comes on, he'll pop in. But let me just put this point out there to you. This point here about charging, and knowing, again, mobile DJs, club DJs, and then of course wedding DJs. That these are all different niche. Well, mobile is the umbrella because at some point we all fall up under the umbrella because we usually don't stay in our lane the whole time. Like for example, we got Southern Soul DJs that a lot of times they do. You know, they'll do Southern Soul events, trail ride events, that kind of stuff, and they pretty much are. I know some that that's all they do. But you got a lot of DJs that, even though they're club DJs, like I say, they'll do parties, they'll do weddings, they'll do whatever, but their true passion is at the club. And they already know what they're going to charge and so on and so forth right there. Um, One of the things that we definitely have to understand is this. When and Michael made a very good point. It's better to charge by the gigs because you're going to obtain all the details, obtain all your details. But at the same time, going back one more time and rolling back again, the key is also knowing your worth. And your worth is going to give you a base model. It's going to give you a base model to how you actually structure that charge, that fee. So, for example, like myself, when I start thinking about what I'm going to charge for an event, I automatically start out my charge according to what my experience and different things that I've done. And from that, then I start thinking about everything else before I provide the actual final fee. And that final fee, 9 times out of 10, is usually acceptable by both myself and the client. Now, there's nothing wrong with if you present a fee and the client says, "Oh, I might have to, check in." That's the telltale sign that you've charged out of their range when you go, yeah, this is what my fee is, and then they go, "Oh, you know what? Let me call you back. I'll get back with you." That's telltale signs of that. So you got two telltale signs. One, when they say yes real quick, you charge too less, and then, "Oh, I'll call you back," and they say it in a certain way that you've charged too much out of their range, and it's okay. It's okay either way, because I look at it like this. Far as charging too less, you got to start somewhere. So at least you're going to get something out of it. And if you charge too high, then you could ask them. You can ask them this question: well, what is your budget? And that way, it gives you some idea of where they're at. So I'll give you a prime example. So if you're going to do a party that's 6 hours, 6 hours gonna, the average DJ is gonna tell you right then they're gonna do it for anywhere between 650 and 750. So maybe they may go as low as 550. So let's say 550 to 750. And then they may go, well, that's I was hoping that I could get it for 500. Okay, at worst case scenario, when you're looking at your low end, you're losing $50, or you could be losing $250. So you have to make the decision on what you're comfortable with. But never ever sell yourself short is the key. Never sell yourself short as it relates to what you charge. And don't be ashamed of what you charge. I can't say that enough. And don't let anyone shame you into thinking that you were wrong about what you did. Because at the end of the day, I always say this: they didn't pay for none of your equipment. They're not paying for anything that you have to do in terms of travel. They're not standing there on your feet for hours and hours doing any of the work. And then they're not going to help you set up or break down. And if they're not doing any of that, they need to just go ahead on and be quiet. You know what I'm saying? That's how I really look at it, because I have to do all the work or pay someone to help me do that work. And if I can't get any of that from the person that's talking all the junk, then hey, it is what it is. Michael, you there?
Yep, I'm here, man. The reason why I elaborate a little bit on why DJ shouldn't charge by the hour, because first you're getting the customer a chance to negotiate your price. If you get somebody that knows that DJs charge by the hour, it's bad for business. So that's why I stopped, because I used to do it by the hour, and then somebody they tried me. So if you do it for this much, if you do it for 3 hours, what I'm saying, they'll go ahead on and break your money down. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
And
yeah.
it's so saturated out here with DJs under bidding, and it just it's bad right now. So that's why I charge by the gig. After you find out everything that you gotta do, how many hours that you gotta be there, just throw your price out there. Don't let them
Yeah.
negotiate you.
Yeah. And you bring up a very good point that they will count those hours and say, "Oh, well, if he's doing it for 4 hours at this price, then I can get him for this,
Right.
yeah." So you make a very good point. And DJs, that is definitely something to watch out for. And because clients will do that. They will calculate, like
Yes.
Mike L said, they will try to calculate your money for you, and you don't want that. You want to always have that control, because at the end of the day, it is your business, it's your brand, and you're the one providing the service. So you always want to
Right.
make sure that you make that final call. So that's very, very important. That's definitely a really, really good take on that for sure. So when you
And
are, go ahead, Mike.
just one more thing. DJs gotta stop trying to charge people because of how much they pay for their equipment. That is terrible.
I agree.
I seen some guys saying that, man. I couldn't believe they were saying it. Like, you don't know how much I pay for my it. They don't understand. Like, why are you in business? You got to keep up with technology.
Yes, yes, that is a fact. You can't pay $1,000 for a piece of equipment and continue to charge your clients you know $500 every time, just because you have that one piece of equipment, because you're reselling it over and
Right.
over and over. you know, as a
Exactly.
DJ, you're reselling you, and this you are the service, and everything
Right.
that comes along with that service just happens to be your equipment. Which I
Right.
got that down here. I got that actually listed about the equipment. So I'm glad you brought that up, because you got a lot of DJs that do it that way, and they forget about themselves. And if you forget
Exactly.
about yourself, then you're charging, you know, uh, uh, for your equipment, and you're not thinking about your skills or whatever. Now, I understand that there is what we call packages. So, for example, if you have let's do a bronze, silver, and let's do a bronze, silver, and gold. So you got three different packages. Your bronze package, you may have where you're only bringing a controller and two speakers along with your normal setup. And as part of that setup, this is what you get for whatever. But you're not charging in terms of the equipment. You're just charging overall what you're bringing to the service, so that you can perform to the event, so that you can perform that service. Now, if you got the silver package and it has that, and you have two subs, and you got a couple other things that you're bringing, that's just extra stuff that you're bringing. You're not charging how much for what you paid for it, but it's all part of the gear that you would bring. And along with so that you can do that particular service for that particular event. And then your platinum, you're breaking out the full shed. You're breaking out all the stuff that was mentioned. You got TVs, you got a whole bunch of lights, you got trusses, and all kinds of other things that are being broken out. And I can understand where you have these packages, for to create an experience, because as DJs, that's what we do. We provide an experience, and that experience is designed for people to have a good time. When people walk into a place and they see a DJ, the first thing that comes to their mind is that I want to have a good time tonight. I want to dance. And by dancing, they are releasing anything that has happened for that day or for that week or whatever. They want to get in a moment. And that moment is all being presented to them from the experience that you're giving them as you're doing what you're doing. So you got to take all of that into play when it comes to your charging. And when you are doing that, like I say, when you are charging, you just got to make sure that you think about those four things that I spoke of at the beginning. You got to think about, what you have to take with you. Of course, like I just mentioned, the location, because you got, if it's a lot different than if you are 15 minutes away from a gig as opposed to 2 hours away from a gig. And then also with everything that you got, you want to make sure that you have everything that you need. For example, let me give you a prime example, the type of gig. Weddings is a prime example. So with weddings, of course, are going to cost a little bit more, and they have notoriously costed more because the DJ puts more time in it. So I'm going to break down a wedding. I'm going to break down my actual format of how I do weddings and why, and so that you can see why I charge more for the weddings. So let's start from the beginning. The client gets a referral from another client. That's usually how it usually happens for me. Client picks up the phone, they call me or they shoot me an email, or they just go straight to djsquareknot.com. They go to the booking area. I get an email from the booking team. Booking team lets me know what the deal is, and I reach out to the client directly myself. Get on the phone with the client. That's the first contact with that individual or individuals. So then I call, I talk to them. They usually have me on speakerphone, the husband and wife to be, and we'll talk. I'll introduce myself. And tell them about, find out information about the referral and all that kind of stuff. Then after that, I go through this particular deal and I'll say, do you want me to do the ceremony and the reception? Most weddings that I've done, and I've done a total of over, as a matter of fact, as of 2 weeks ago, I think 3 weeks ago, I've done 76 weddings. So out of all those weddings, and I know there's DJs that's done hundreds and hundreds, but I'm just giving you me. So out of all those weddings, they will use, I've had very few that I've done just the reception. I usually do the ceremony and the reception. And because you do the ceremony and the reception, you also have the social hour in between. So then I start with the reception. I say, okay, for your reception, as far as receiving music, do you have a particular, once we find out the location and all that stuff, because I've already established that with them, they've already talked to me about it. Plus, I have that information in front of me because on my booking form, that's one of the things that I obtain. I obtain where they are, where they're going to have the wedding, the date, the time, how many hours they need me, the whole deal. I get all that information. So I have all that information and I read all that information. But now we get into the meat of the ceremony. Get into the meat of the ceremony, and I'll say, as far as the ceremony is concerned, when you're receiving guests, do you have a specific song? Most of them will say no. And I'll say, well, I have some songs that I'll play, just, so that when people are coming in, they'll have some soft jazz music playing to receive. Now, then I'll say, as far as the parents walking in, do you want a particular song or can I use the same song? Most of them will say you can use the same song. Now, when it comes to the bridal party, I'll say, okay, so now you have the bridal party coming in. What song would you like to change that to? They'll tell me the name of the song. I'll make sure I make note of that. I'll make note of that song, and then I'll go, okay, so now we got the bridal party coming in. And the big thing here lately has been the groom. The groom now comes in on his own song. And sometimes it's a mashup that they ask me to create. Other times they come in and they're dancing, they're doing whatever. I've seen it. I've seen some of everything. So then the groom may say, "Hey, I want to come in on this song." Okay, I make sure I make note of his song. Then it's time for, of course, the bride, because as we're getting ready to um, have you got your bridesmaids that usually have come in. Some of them have the groomsmen and the bridesmaids come in together. Sometimes they come in separate. If they come in separate, I'll change the song, and I'll have the bridesmaids come in, and also the little flower girl. Once they all have come in, then of course I'll switch the music to what the bride wants to come in on. After she's in, she's up, everything is good, music is all panned out. Next thing I ask is, what unity event are you going to do? Are you going to do the sand? Are you going to do the braids? Are you going to do the candles? And there's most of them say candles or the sand. So according to that, when they do that, I'll say, would you like me to play like a nice little song during that particular time when you walk over there? They'll say yes. So I'll give them some recommendations, or sometimes they'll already have a song in mind. I make note of that. Once we make note of that, of course, they do that. I tell them, I say, okay, now you're at the point where you're going to, finish your do your vows, finish your vows and do everything. And then you got your prayer. Usually during the prayer, sometimes there's been situations where they want something real low playing during the prayer, usually like a little small gospel song or something like that, gospel instrumental or something. And I've done that. Then if I have to do that, I note that. Then they go through that. Then it's when it's time to be announced as husband and wife and they're exiting. What is your exit song? I make note of that. Once I make note of that, the whole bridal party's coming out on that particular song, and the ceremony is done. The ceremony is done at that point. And at that point, I tell them, I said, when you finish with that, usually you're going to be taking pictures. So then I will shift into your social hour. Immediately shift into your social hour and go from there while you're taking pictures. Now, keep in mind, while this is going on, the setup for this is a total separate setup than what I have for my reception. So I actually carry two setups when I'm doing the ceremony and the reception. I'll have a little small top. I'll have a top, 15-inch top with the mics set up, and I'll have a laptop out there, and I'll usually use my small DJ to go, Newmark DJ to go to perform those tasks for the ceremony. Once I'm all done with that, and I got the social hour going, I'll usually, if we're going to stay outside, I'll continue to use that setup for the outside. If it's inside with the reception, I'll get my other laptop that is there, and I'll have that set up, and I'll start kicking in just some music, just some kind of chill music for the reception while the guests are going into the reception. Once it's time to start the receiving of the bridal party for the reception, I ask the question again, what song do you want your bridal party to come in on? Because this is where my MCing comes into play. The MC service comes into play. I am playing music, playing the track, and then I'm introducing the groomsmen and the bridesmaid, however many sets of them they are. I'm bringing them all in on this particular song. Once I get them in, then there's another song. The next song is to receive the newlyweds. And of course, I announce them on that particular song, and they come in, they dance they jump around for a quick second, and then they immediately move into their first dance. Now, when they get ready to move into the first dance, I've already transitioned their bring-in song to their first dance song. They do their first dance song, and they usually tell me, we're not going to dance the whole song. We want to dance maybe about 2 minutes of it, then phase it out. That's what I do. After the first dance, we go into the father-daughter. If that's going to be the case, Of course, I bring a song up for that. And then after the father daughter, mother son, we go into that. And if there's any other little special dances or anything prior to, we do it. If not, they transition into dinner. When they transition into dinner, I usually do either some light jazz or contemporary jazz or neo soul. I don't want it to bring it down so blah that, it's kind of, draining energy. So I use contemporary jazz because it still has somewhat of an upbeat to it, and also some upbeat neo soul. I'll use that as well. And then while they're eating, that's going on. Once I see the bride and groom finish their dinner and they get up and start moving around, usually I'll start bringing the tempo of the music up. I'll start switching to a more upbeat songs. And when I see them really starting to move around, I have already asked the bride and the groom what is their absolute favorite songs. And those, I ask for plenty, but to at least one or two of those songs, I'll start dropping those in so that they can begin to dance. Once the bride and grooms gets on the floor and they start to dance, what I do is I get on the mic and I start saying, congratulate, the newlyweds, and feel free to get on the floor and dance with them and have a good time. And then from that, I kick into the reception according to what we've talked about prior to. And it makes for a very successful wedding. Now, that's the ceremony and the social hall, social hour, and the reception. Prior to this, I've already had 2 or 3 meetings with them via Zoom, on site at the venue. I do a site survey, and then I've also gone to their rehearsal dinner, so that they actually have the actual DJ there with the actual music, so they can do live cues of everything they want to practice. So that's where all this extra work comes in. You got the meetings, you got plenty of calls with them. You're setting up the music, you're checking for updates. Then you go to the rehearsal dinner, then you do the actual wedding and the receptions and everything, and then after that you can call it quits. But that's why I charge so much more for my weddings. And I'll tell you, on the average at base, my weddings start out at $850, and they go as high as I've had them as high as $3,750. So it just depends on what you do, and the work that's involved in it, and then also what you're taking. Because I've had a wedding where I've had 4 tops, 2 subs, 32, 34 par lights deployed all around the venue, and I forget what else, TVs, and also the gobo, where their name is actually on the wall. All these different things, and also a projector for where they had the pre-wedding engagement videos and stuff like that, had all of that going as well. So all these different things have occurred to determine the price. So just something to think about. And there we go, like Michael said, at that point, it's not about the hour, it's about the package. So when you're doing the package, you just have to make sure that you come into play, get all the details, and from all the details, you determine what you're going to charge. And again, I say this again, no one can shame you into whatever you charge. Whatever you charge is whatever you charge. Whatever your comfort level is whatever your comfort level is. But just make sure that whatever it is, you feel good about it. If you feel good about it, no one else should feel that you should have gotten more or whatever it may be. So just keep that in mind. There are sometimes I hear DJs say this, and I say this every once in a while. There is something called a family and friends discount. I'll be honest with you, as it relates to family and friends, a lot of times I don't really discount very much. And the reason behind that is because you wind up doing way more work than you would as if you had a real client. Off of pure expectation of the fact that you are family, that you are a friend. So I make sure that I don't make it too like super enticing and to where it seems so free that they can do all of that. But that definitely is something that does exist, and you have to set that boundary as it relates to that, to what you charge there as well. And don't be taken advantage of. I will tell you that. Do not be taken advantage of it, because your family and friends, hey, there's no secret about it. They will take advantage of you if they feel that they can. So make sure that when it comes to charging, you don't go too low with that as well, for sure. All in the name of just who they are. Because on the flip side of that, business is business. So keep that in mind. And then the other thing is I bring this up, and I bring this up all the time, and this is because my company, Square Knot Entertainment, SKE, yeah, I think you probably see it on my shirt, SKE LLC. What I do a couple times a year is I do what I call a community service, and I do it in the form of very reduced plays or very reduced gigs for nonprofits. So what I mean by that is if it's a school, I'll do a reduced gig, or otherwise I will do it for different organizations like I did say schools, but other different events, like if there's a diabetes awareness or something like that, is some type of initiative, I will do a reduced fee. And that reduced fee is anywhere from $175 to $200. And I do that, and I call that giving back. And what I do is I request from the individuals that I'm doing the gig for a letter of community service. And I do that so that I can have that for my records, showing as part of my EPK that I do give back to the community, and I do things of the sort, and it just helps me out. And the good thing about those types of gigs is this: you do those gigs, and there are always plenty of people in attendance for these types of gigs. And what they do, they see you, they see how well you've done, and they'll grab your card, and the next thing you know, you get 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 or more gigs from it. And that's been the case with me. I've been successful that way, and I appreciate that. And I feel that that's God's way of blessing me for doing what I did, as opposed to charging a full fee to a nonprofit when, even though they may have money to do things, but I don't think about it like that. I don't care what they have. I do it from the kindness of my heart. And then I will tell you guys this, and you guys might think I'm like super duper crazy for this one. Sometimes, and Michael, get ready to chime in on this one, bro. I would love to get your opinion on this. Sometimes, no matter how experienced you are or how inexperienced you are, sometimes it's good to do the gig for free. And I will tell you why. You do the gig for free because it gives people a chance to be exposed to you. And you don't have to have a lot of a screaming amount of equipment out there with you or wherever you are. You do the gig for free, and you give people an opportunity to see you, so that then from that, you can also pick up more gigs. That is called marketing. And just like it comes into play with the actual services that you provide, at some point you have to do some marketing. Marketing can come in the way of doing gigs free, not saying a whole bunch. Oh no, not all the time. Maybe 1 or 2 a year, if that. But also business cards, flyers, promotions in different social media areas, just a whole bunch of different ones. But I would love for DJ Mike L to chime in on that. He's out of Maryland.
Yeah, free is good. That's when I take and distribute all my business cards, and then I make sure when I do that free show, I make sure I'm doing a very good job, because you ain't no telling how many shows you might get just off of doing that free show. So you promoting yourself.
Yes, indeed. It is definitely a great marketing tactic. And if you are able to do it and you do your best work so that they can actually see your talent, um, you're almost guaranteed to get at least one, if not tons of gigs off of that one. So it's always good to do that. And I just truly believe that when you give back, things come back to you in tenfold, and it just works. Um,
I agree with you.
I've had it happen numerous times. So um, overall, just I'm gonna go back up and down this list real quick. I didn't want to keep you guys too long, but I definitely wanted to definitely touch base on the fact of and try to help DJs out as it relates. First off, how much? It's up to you. Don't let anyone tell you that you should be charging whatever. Whatever you decide to charge is what you charge, number one. But number two, determine the type of DJ that you are. The type of DJ that you are helps you determine what you're going to do, because you're going to be in that particular arena most of the time when you are doing your work and you are doing your craft. Like I say, if you're a club DJ, even though you're a club DJ, you may do other events, but you're still going to wind up going right back to the club. And we all know from experience that club DJs, it's not like you're going to get a ton of money unless you work out a deal with we got DJ Cap in the house, unless you work out a deal with the owner. Like, I'll give you a prime example of a good thing. DJ Rod Flash from the DJ Information Group, he spoke about this once before, and I had already shared this with someone, and he just confirmed what I had mentioned once before, and that is, sometimes it's good to charge a flat fee, but then there's other times when you are going to have, like, for example, if you know that you're going to have a bar full of people, maybe 1,000 people in this bar, you may do better getting a piece of the door and letting them have the bar. So, for example, if you get 20% of the door and the tickets are $20, and 20% of $20 is $4. So 20% of $4, and you got 500 people come in that night. That's $2,000 for you. Whereas to normally you would have charged $250, maybe even $300 if you could get that, maybe $350. So there are times like that when you have to weigh your options as it relates to working in clubs. Clubs are really tricky. They can be lucrative and make you some money, but they're tricky, because if you select that night when all of a sudden no one shows up, that $2,000 could be $200, and on that night, that's when you should have charged, the $250 or the $300. So it's really tricky there. But club DJs have that down packed because they've been there so long. They know when and when not to use that particular strategy to make it work. Then, of course, you got, like I say, you got your mobile DJ, which usually is the mobile DJ is the one that does pretty much everything. Even though we all fall under the mobile DJ umbrella at some point, because we're going to do any type of event if we so choose. But we got party DJs, we got the ones that do a lot of corporate events. Corporate events is something that I failed to mention. Corporate events can also make you a lot of money, but corporate events can also be a lot of fun, and it could also be a true test of your talent, because you're not just playing to one demographic. you're playing to multiple ethnic groups, and that's where your skills come in at, because you get a chance to really learn how to read a crowd, and you learn how to read a crowd because you have all types of ethnicities there, and you have to appeal to all of them at some point during your play. So if you ever get an opportunity to do corporate events or work with a DJ that's doing corporate events, take the time to go out and learn something from them, because they can teach you a lot. And those skills that you learn at a corporate event will help you in every other event that you do. Trust me, I've done it and I know about it. I've done a ton of corporate events myself. I learned from corporate event DJs, and I've seen it work. It works. It works. It works. And of course, the most prominent one, and they somehow have a niche under the umbrella of mobile DJ, and that's your wedding DJ, which I kind of fall under mostly because that's what I do mostly. And wedding DJs, I gave you an example of what I do in terms of all the work that I put in for it, and my base price, and then I take it up from there. And that's all about just trying to make sure that the client gets the best possible work for the money that they're spending. And at the same time, I always tell the client this: I don't want you to ever have to worry about anything as far as the entertainment side for your wedding and your special day. That you should never have to worry about anything pertaining to anything on that side, because I have it. And I say that because I am letting them, and I'm assuring them that I have total control of that. And I get total control of that by doing those meetings, by going on site, doing a site survey, by being at their rehearsal dinner, and making sure that everything runs smooth according to everything that we have already prepared prior to, so that when there's special days there, everything goes off without a hitch. And thus far, knocking on some wood, it has been just that. So I'm very appreciative of that, and I'm blessed. That's been the case. God has really blessed me, and I've been quite successful. So definitely make sure that you take this information and try to do something with it. Also, as far as your equipment is concerned, it does make it's very important that you don't charge by what you spent on your equipment. I thank DJ Mike L for bringing that up and reiterating that, because it kind of, I don't know, I'm with him. It doesn't really make sense to me. I don't know the understanding behind it. I can understand all the stuff that you have to take, and and things of that nature. For example, if you got some equipment that you have to take that you don't have, you may have to rent it. I can understand stuff like that. So that's totally different. Taking the amount of equipment you have to take to accomplish and to have a successful gig is different than, hey, I charge $5,000 for this equipment, so I'm about to bust them in the head with $1,250, every time or whatever. That's not cool. That's not cool. So just think about, the different things. Think about packages. I spoke to you about the bronze, the gold, and the silver and the gold, to give you an example. And, you can set your own prices for that. And always, like I said, at a base, know your worth, and a good rule of thumb as far as you know what you know what you want to make per hour, but don't use it. You use it as a scale, as a rule of thumb, to help you determine how to best provide the number that you want to do for a gig overall, as far as the total gig after you've gotten all the details. Don't let it be the hard line for you, and especially if you tell a client for 4 hours, this is what I charge. Because when you do that, like Mike L said, they will start counting your money for you, and you definitely don't want that. and that becomes a true issue. So definitely remember that. Then, of course, like I said, I spoke about friends and family and friends. You got to watch out for that. That's a whole nother topic in itself. And donations and community service. Definitely think about that. Think about free events every once in a while. I'm not saying do them all the time. I'd say 1 or 2 a year max. Don't get overboard with it, because you turn out to be one of these DJs where they say, "Oh, I can get him to do it for free." You're gonna be stuck there. It's almost like what is it? You're interested in a girl and she puts you in the friend zone. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of one of them same kind of situation. You definitely don't want that to happen. So don't put yourself in that kind of predicament, and then you can't get out of it. And overall, I want to say this. I know that we've been talking about money a lot, and we've been talking about DJing, and that's truly for the purposes of helping you trying to decide what you want to do as a DJ, and what you want to try to achieve in your I call it therapy. DJing is therapy to me. It's my passion. It's my first love. Know that it should be in your heart first. It should be that. It should be a passion. It should be something, because if it's that, and you focus on it like that, the money is secondary. The money's it just becomes a byproduct of that. Now, I understand that for some, DJing is a way of life for them, and this is their bread and butter. And if that's the case, hey, you got to think about the numbers. But if you have a 9 to 5 and you're working every day, or you have a stream of income that's your main support, and your DJing is all extra or whatever, I would say keep the passion, use it as therapy, and not let the money be the focal point of doing your gigs, because when you do that, sometimes you wind up getting too focused on that, and then it could later cause problems. I believe that everyone, even though the market is saturated with DJs, that everyone has an opportunity to slice out their little piece of the pie. You just have to be willing to do it. Market yourself. Be a brand. If you are a brand, like you see, I'm always wearing my brand. You have logo. You have a logo of yourself. All of that. I just created a new logo of myself, kind of like the artist formerly known as Prince. I'm gonna be the DJ formerly known as DJ Square now, with that particular emblem that I created. But just let it be fun. The DJ culture is amazing. It is one of a kind. It is truly a blessing in itself. And the DJ culture has saved so many people's lives. And it's been something that has lasted the test of time. And we have to continue to carry this on, continue to carry the torch, keep the culture alive. And we do that by, number one, working together, sharing information, and doing great things to keep it uplifted, and not going against each other. I know that a lot of us have egos, but sometimes you got to leave the egos at the door so that we all can benefit from what the culture has to offer. I know that we're wrapping it up here shortly, but DJ Cap is in the house, and I wanted to give him an opportunity to say anything if he had anything. Unmute yourself. Otherwise, there you go. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good. I was just sitting here listening to you. I kind of like came in late on this here deal. I was away from the computer, turned it on, and I saw where you was doing this. I said, let me jump in here and see what's going on. So, but yeah, from that tail end of what you was talking about, straight up, definitely makes sense of what you was talking about. I see you up in North Carolina, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so totally different geographic from where I'm at,
Where are you located?
down here in Tampa, Florida.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's a
Yeah.
party town, man.
Well, hey, it is, it is, but the biggest problem down here is with the DJs is that you have some guys, I'm quite sure it may be the same in your area too. A lot of guys, they a lowball. They'll go out there and do a gig for this. And that's what these people get kind of like in their head, is ingrained in them. Okay, this is what the going price is in this area.
Yes.
And at that point, you going in there and you trying to, get what you worth. Oh no, they ain't going with you. They rolling to the other guy, obviously, because of the money.
Yes.
So like I was telling one guy, then I said, I guess I'll sit here and just collect dust until that one person come along and gonna pay me what I'm worth. Or every now and then you have to bend and say, okay, I'm just go ahead and get this money.
Right, right.
So it's an up and it's a down situation in my area.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, it's like that here. I'll give you a prime example. Back in last year, I was booked for a wedding to happen January 15th. And I had already sent out the contracts, everything. And I noticed that the client was delaying on the contract like big time. And it got down to like a month before the wedding. And I was like, look, hey, you guys still haven't signed the contract. And I've already talked to you guys a couple times, meetings and things of that nature. And I still haven't gotten it. I said, the only reason I'm doing it is because I know you fell into that family and friends zone kind of deal. And for what they wanted, I told them, I said, look, I said, I will step away from my norm and I will give you guys this reduced price. Gave them that reduced price. And then they finally came to me 2 weeks prior to the wedding and said, it's out of our budget. So we're going to go with someone else. Well, they went with someone else and that guy tore that wedding up. And I always tell, especially clients, wedding clients, remember, you only have one shot at that day. So whatever goes wrong in that day is wrong in that day forever.
Right.
So, and he from every, I got so many calls talking about, we heard that you were supposed to have been playing. Why didn't you show? And I even had one call me and they were pissed off with me and they said, why did you cancel? I was like, whoa, I didn't cancel. They told me, they said that I was out of their budget. And they was like, well, the way it was sounding like you can't, no, I didn't cancel. I did not cancel. So yeah, you get some guys that, hop in and they don't know what they're doing. Again, like I say, you got to know your lane. And if you do it wrong, you do it wrong. I can understand sometimes, you definitely want to step into it but that underballing thing, and you bring up a very good point too about the going price.
Yeah.
That goes back to what Mike L was saying about them counting your money too. That going price, when that going price, that quote unquote going price is out there, it really damages the way we do business when people are doing that. So that's something else I definitely want DJs to be careful about doing as well, because we can all kind of fall into that category if clients decide to do that, because there's no secret that we're one of the first to be called, but one of the last to be thought about.
That's true.
So we have to always remember that. I've been in situations where I've known DJs that call me pissed off. They say, man, this client, they went all out. They have their whole yard dressed out, talking about this and that. And then they call me and said, is there any way I could pay you next month? Because I done spent all my money on this stuff. And I was like, man, you better pack your stuff up and go, because you ain't going to get paid, yo.
No, that's right.
So most definitely. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that tidbit, and that's going down here on Square Not Live as part of it too, for everyone to hear. different perspectives on different things. So I appreciate that. But I definitely hope this information has definitely been informative to everyone that is listening, everyone that will listen to Square Not Live. And please provide your feedback on it. And then definitely, but before I go, I definitely want to play something for you because, hey, I'm doing it, so maybe you can do it too. What's up, everybody? This is your man, DJ Square Knot, and I got a little something for you. If you've always wanted to share ideas or just talk about something to share with the world, hey, a podcast may just be the thing for you. Fortunately, you could do just like I did and check out Buzzsprout. Initially, I was intimidated, but Buzzsprout made it so easy with tons of videos and tools that I was up and running in no time. I love the fact that they get your podcast listed on every major podcast platform like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and more. They've already helped over 100,000 people launch their own podcasts, and now you could join the ranks and share your message with the world too. You'll also get a great looking podcast website, audio players to drop in other websites, detailed analytics, tools to promote your episodes, and more. So to start your own podcast and get a $20 Amazon gift card, click the support the show link in the show notes. This lets Buzzsprout know that DJ Square Knot sent you, and it helps the show. Peace. All right, so now we're going to get on up out of here. I just want to go around real quick. DJ Cap, you got anything you want to close out with that you could tell these DJs, not from the novice to the professional, pertaining to what to charge?
Well, for me, like I was saying before, you got a lot of DJs in my area that's out there setting certain trends. And you get that trend out there where, a lot of people thinking, okay, this is what it's going for. And like you say, your work, how much you can make. But sometimes you have to look at it. And I think you said something about, okay, this is my passion. This is what I like to do. And that's kind of like where I'm at with it too.
Right.
So I have to look at it like this here. It's not all about the money sometimes. And yeah, I know what I'm worth. Do I want to go rock the house for this amount of money and have fun? And I find myself in that situation sometimes. So I would say, if it's your passion, you love the DJ, yeah, your worth. As long as it's not ridiculous, taking advantage of you, and it's a reasonable time that you're going to put in and still make some money, go for it.
Yes.
That's just how I'm around it off with.
I appreciate that, my brother. That is right on point.
Yeah.
DJ Mike L, you got anything you want to say? You want to chime in before we close out?
Yeah, all I got to say is set your price and stick with it.
That's another good one. That is another good one. Well, I hope this information has been good, and I appreciate you guys tuning in to Square Knot Live. I'm your man, DJ Square Knot, and just like I said, anytime you need help from me, you have it, because all the information that I have, guess what? I can't take it. If I take it to the grave, it's lost. But if I can able to share it, it becomes a legacy. So I'd rather have legacy over it being lost. And on that note, you guys take care. I'm your man, DJ Square Knot, and we're out.